but if we can get, oh, great, thanks. Yeah, I don't think there are any presentations today, but if we can get the video on later, that would be amazing. So welcome everybody to this third community conversation with the Armed Forces Retirement Home. The first two conversations were on September 15th and October 6th regarding the development at the Armed Forces Retirement Home and neighborhood connectivity. My name is Philip Cornell. I represent the Friends of the Soldiers Home, and we will be, you got your own video, Michael. Saw you for a second.
I really did not want to do that too.
And we will be hosting, and I'll be hosting this this evening's conversation. The way we'll go is we'll just have a series of introductions. And then as the agenda was sent around, we will have some comments from stakeholders, particularly on the Armed Forces Retirement Home side, from the leadership, the Ombudsman, and the Resident Advisory Committee. And then we'll go into a period of community response and Q&A. So let me pass the next introduction to General Rippey and the AFRH leadership, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam Gitchell. I'm the Ombudsman for the Armed Forces Retirement Home here in Washington, D.C. My main job is the advocacy for the residents. I have with me here today retired Master Sergeant Fred Lehman. He is the RAC Chair, Resident Advisory Council Chair. Retired Chief Warrant Officer Hillary Rosado from the Army. Fred was Air Force. And retired Air Force Chief Master Sergeant Don Singer. We wanted to get some Navy folks in here and some Marines, but it's after 1900 hours and they're down in the Defender's Inn. So it's just us tonight.
Great, thanks so much, Sam. Let's go to the community groups. Is there someone here from Georgia Avenue Thrive, please?
If folks could raise their hand if they're here and you're not elevated. I'm not seeing anyone from Georgia Avenue Thrive.
Okay, Georgia Avenue Thrive, Committee of 100.
Kirby Vining is here. I'm elevating him now.
Okay, great, thank you. Kirby, do you want to introduce Committee of 100?
Yeah, unable to start video here, but yeah, I'm Kirby Vining, is currently the chair of the Committee of 100. I'll be turning over the chairmanship and to another person in January. But I'll still be with the Historic Preservation Subcommittee of the Committee of 100, and that's the initial interest that the Committee of 100 had in the project, because of course it is a historic site and there are some historic resources on the development Zone A, though there are other concerns such as traffic, but something that other community members on the west side are more concerned about, that we're interested in how the community interacts with the enlivened sites, but over what I see on the North Capitol Street side is it's a very different thing. There's no community, nobody actually lives up against the eastern side there, so we're listening to the our neighbors on the west side. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Kirby. From the neighborhood commission representatives, the ANCs 5A, 4C, 1A, please.
Again, if you're here from any of the other ANCs, if you could please just raise your hand. I did see Matt McFarland joined us from Georgia Avenue Thrive, if he wants to.
Oh yeah, Matt.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I was on the phone line earlier and y'all couldn't hear me, but I just joined through the app. But hey, really great to be here. It's Matt McFarland from Georgia Avenue Thrive. Appreciate everybody's time here, and it's been, really great to get to know everybody better, especially Stacy from the home. And yeah, just appreciate everyone's time and hope to support some positive outcomes here for everybody. So, thank you.
Amazing, thank you, Matt.
And then I'll just again reintroduce myself. I'm Michael Ray. I'm the chair of ANC 1A. I'm trying to run the meeting a little bit here, but I'm sorry about the lack of video. I am also recovering from COVID, so I'm a bit of a disadvantage this evening, but happy to be here and to help when I can. So continue on, please.
Great. Thanks very much, Michael. Do we have any of the other ANCs on the line, do you see?
I am not seeing anyone that raised their hand.
Okay. Okay, great. And then council members or representatives from the wards. Do we have anybody there? Please raise your hand if you're on the line. Alrighty. Okay, great. Well, maybe we'll just move straight into the substance of the comments, and let me turn it over to AFRH, to either the leadership if they would have something to say, and then to the ombudsman, please.
So good evening, everyone. Again, this is Sam Gitchell. It is my pleasure to lead off tonight on behalf of the residents of the Armed Forces Retirement Home. Just to remind everyone, this is a resident's perspective. Residents here are not engaged in the dialogue with the legal actions or property development. We're just the residents, so we're going to speak on from that lens. The Armed Forces Retirement Home is one of the most unique benefits offered to enlisted veterans who served honorably. We really appreciate the continued engagement with our Petworth neighbors. We're going to build on this positive relationship between the veterans here, the staff, and the community. They're very important to us. But also, we would like everyone to just remember that any proposal to change how we operate does have a cost, and the Armed Forces Retirement Home does not have the ability nor the capital to fund constructions or pay added security or manpower. And I'll go into how we are funded with enlisted service members in just a second. This must be considered during these conversations, but we also look forward to upcoming sessions and open dialogue. So I won't bore everyone with the general history of the home. I'm sure you know this is something that General Scott kicked off in 1851, but his mission was for the care of returning enlisted veterans has endured for over 170 years. Our current mission here at the Armed Forces Retirement Home, our mission statement is in concert with General Scott's vision, which is to fulfill our nation's commitment to its veterans by providing a premier retirement community with exceptional residential care and extensive support services. Now, I don't know everyone's background. I've read everyone on FOSH is on your website, but so I don't know what you may or may not know, but I will just give a brief, let you have an understanding of why this home is important to enlisted members in particular. So as you know, over the last 170 years, the home has been funded by Armed Forces enlisted members, which means a deduction comes out of each enlisted member's salary every month. And this has been occurring for, almost a couple hundred years now. And this distinction cannot be overlooked, and I'll explain why in just a second. But I would challenge anyone to find another piece of property, another installation that has been paid for in such a manner. Since 1851, this stipend has been deducted. And additionally, enlisted members, and this is my fun part, if you didn't know, whenever an enlisted soldier gets in trouble, they have to forfeiture pay and allowance, those penalties also come to the home. Unfortunately, over the last 10 years, we haven't really been that forceful in taking soldier salaries, but if they do get in trouble, we do that goes into our coffers here. So a little bit of background, and I'm going to cite something out of the Congressional Research Service paper that just posted for the end strength for the Armed Forces. Came out this year, and I took the average. They had a good chart on there that really went back 20 years. And if you know, over the past 20 years, we've been engaged is kind of over now, but it was engaged in a war on terrorism. So when I give you this number, I'm talking about the Iraqi and the Afghan veterans. So 50 cents, and I took the average of the in strength for enlisted service members only, and at 50 cents per enlisted service member each month for the last 20 years, that total comes up to around 140 million, about 7 million a year. Right, is my math? Yeah, I'm getting the north and south. That was my math too, so I understood General Rippey might be on, and you never do math in front of a general, because you can get in trouble. But I took a chance tonight. I'm retired. So if you bump that to 30
Sam,
years.
Sam,
Yeah.
you're doing a great job. Just keep talking. You're doing a great job.
Okay. All right, so if you go back over to 30 years, we're going to go ahead and collect up the Gulf War veterans and the Bosnian, the campaigns in the Balkans, and that comes to about 210 million. If you go back 50 years, you're going to go ahead and include the Vietnam era veterans, and that's about 350 million. But if you go back 80 years to our oldest World War II veteran here, and a lot of them are Korean veterans as well, that's nearly $500 million that the enlisted service members have paid for this home. $500 million, and they continue to do that today. So when our members here, when the Chief Warrant Officer and the Chief Master Sergeant and the Master Sergeant brief you here, they are really representing years, decades of enlisted service members who have contributed to this home. And this is our home. As a matter of fact, I went to the Army benefits page today in preparation for this briefing, and what I found was that the benefits page for Army people, you know, when you go there, you never go until it's time to retire, and you really go there to calculate your retirement pay. But what I found there was a link to the Armed Forces Retirement Home. So the point I'm trying to make here is this is a benefit. And a benefit is almost like a promise to a service member. This is part of our life cycle. This is our soldier for life. You start, you enlist, you pay into this, you retire in good standing, you have an opportunity to come here. And I gotta tell you, this is a small percentage. This is a privileged few who get to come here. I know I was a recruiting retention division sergeant major once upon a time, and we could probably get in one in 1,000 who actually wanted to serve. But I'll end with this, and I'll pass it to the Chief Warrant Officer. I was sitting in my office the other day, and a potential resident came in, and he had an interesting story, and I would like for everyone to let this sink home. He explained that he was here because he made a promise to his wife that when she passed, he would come here for the safety, to feel safe, and the camaraderie of the other service members. She hadn't passed at the time. She was terminal, and she had about 2 weeks to live, and he came and fulfilled that promise to her prior to her death so that she knew that he had signed up to come here. That's how important these grounds are. They're hallowed grounds for us enlisted service members, and we hope that the end state of this outcome is favorable for the people who bought and paid for it. And now I will bump it to Chief Warrant Officer Hillary Rosado. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Good evening. I'm retired Army Chief Warrant Officer Hillary Rosado. I've lived here at the Washington campus of the Armed Forces Retirement Home for 2 years. I'd always planned to come here to claim a benefit that I earned through service to this country. And the idea of living and healing in a safe and secure environment, especially as I age, was also a major factor in my decision to make this place home. But this evening, I'm speaking on behalf of the residents. I hope I do you right. Washington campus is our home. We became stakeholders as soon as we raised our right hands to enlist. Furthermore, the Armed Forces Retirement Home is an accredited gated senior retirement home, and the security of the residents is a significant part of these accreditations. So public access to the campus would present a significant risk to the accreditation. And we residents rely on the AFRH and the Washington campus leadership to be committed to our well-being, and that includes keeping us safe. So first, I'm going to talk about the public access issue in order to inform the residents who may not understand what's been going on. Then I'll describe how the campus is not as closed off as was suggested in the previous presentation, while showing how some of the home's current arrangements have led to an increased level of concern about safety. So here's the background as I understand it. The AFRH applied to the National Capital Planning Commission in 2008 for a long-term lease of 80 acres for a private mixed-use development. This long-term lease of the 80 acres, or Zone A, would provide an income stream for the home. The remaining portion of the campus is referred to as the AFRH zone. So that was in 2008. So let me address what's happening more recently. The National Capital Planning Commission approved a second amendment to the AFRH master plan at its June 2022 meeting. And at the meeting, there was testimony from Mr. Bays, the Commissioner of ANC 1A, spoke to the issues of connectivity to and integration of the newly formed Zone A community upon its completion, and the need for public access through the AFRH campus as part of that connectivity and integration. So a shortcut in the form of public access through our campus was still being requested, despite improved design of Irving Street with walking and bike paths, and an improved entry design of First Street at Irving Street. There's also future connectivity planned via bike paths and trails to and around Zone A. And Mr. Hughes, chairman and co-founder of Friends of the Soldiers Home, or FOSH, expressed that the organization supports the home 100% and is committed to connecting the community to the home. But for residents, any imagined connection does not mean a physical connection through our campus. At the same time, Mr. Hughes insisted that the home make what he called course corrections as gaps remain in this wonderful relationship. But all I know about FOSH is that it's a nonprofit charitable organization whose mission, according to its website, is to serve those who served at Washington, D.C.'s Armed Forces Retirement Home. So we'd like to know why this nonprofit is pushing for public access to our campus. Surely this is contrary to their mission statement. Please serve those who serve by respecting our home. Well, let's get back to the NCPC June session. Perhaps due to the comments by Mr. Bays and Mr. Hughes, the Commission recommended that AFRH commit to re-engage with NCPC staff, the District of Columbia Office of Planning, the National Park Service, and the community to evaluate the feasibility of possible public access to the western portion of the AFRH zone. And on 15th of September, AFRH, that is General Rippey's staff, presented the results of its feasibility study regarding the costs and implications of possible public access to the Washington campus. Representatives of the wards and AMCs were dissatisfied with what was presented. And here's what they said in their introductory comments at the 6th October presentation. Quote, "We also heard many reasons why access was infeasible, some legitimate, some less so, as well as a collection of options which were meant to be demonstrably unworkable. Personally, I find this statement rather insulting, as the AFRH provided, in good faith, information about the feasibility of possible public access." And then we also heard at this 6 October presentation that other parts of the community are now piggybacking on the original request for access through campus, but this time for a park or green space for a local elementary school. Here we are now at the third presentation, and the residents of the Washington campus finally can have their say. We hold that the agency's feasibility study clearly demonstrates that none of its proposed solutions adequately protects the Washington campus residents. The only proposal that protects us to an acceptable level is not to allow public access to the AFRH zone over and above what we allow right now. Secondly, I would like to address how the AFRH and its Washington campus has contributed to the community so far to demonstrate that we are not as closed off as some say we are. In 1950, land totaling some 91 acres was transferred to the Washington Hospital Center and to the Veterans Administration for its hospital. This transfer has enabled the community to have 4 nearby hospitals today: the Washington Hospital Center, the National Rehabilitation Hospital, the Children's National Hospital, and the Washington, D.C. Veterans Medical Center. Trinity College and Catholic University also benefited from transfers of land totaling about 72 acres in 1969 and 2004, respectively. Additionally, various acreage amounts were transferred to the D.C. government during the period of 1922 to 1964 for highway purposes in support of emerging community transportation needs for a total of about 65 acres. All told, that's almost 230 acres. So today's access to campus shows that AFRH is not completely closed off to the community, as was suggested in the October briefing. Barbed wire mentality is the phrase that comes to mind. But as you will see, the access we allow now comes with serious security challenges, and the residents are rightly concerned that these security challenges will increase if there were to be general public access to campus at other entry points besides the main Eagle Gate. First, we have Creative Minds International Public Charter School. The relationship between the home and the school has not been without issues. There have been reports of property damage and disrespectful behavior by both parents and students directed towards the security guards. Most concerning was an incident that occurred about a year ago when the student threatened to use a weapon in the school. These issues are concerning for the residents, and no matter the resident's age, he or she may feel vulnerable going outside when students are being dropped off or picked up, and it's certainly not safe in the parking lots when parents are driving the wrong way or too fast. We shouldn't be prisoners in our own home. Then we have a Lincoln Cottage at the Soldiers' Home. It's a non-profit public charity open to the public in 2008. And its website states that we are privileged to share a campus with the Armed Forces Retirement Home, a vulnerable population. Their safety and yours is our top priority, and require each visitor to the cottage to show the same respect. As you may well know, the Lincoln Cottage provides interactive tours and exhibits and hosts public and private events. Visitors are asked to respect the privacy of the residents of the home and to keep to the permitted walkways and landscaped areas. Explore beyond these boundaries is not permitted and will result in trespassing on federal property. Yet visitors do enter unauthorized areas. Unsupervised children do climb on important historic features, such as the almost 200-year-old Osage orange tree next to the cottage and a large bell made in 1868 located in front of the Scott Building. So these sorts of infractions are not appreciated by the residents. They do not want members of the public entering the area they live in, whether that be the residential area or the remainder of the AFRH zone. Then there are a number of annual recurring events that require a permit from the home. We have the DC Mountain Bike Club races, the Lincoln Cottage 5K run, and Foch events by the golf course. Again, there have been issues here with cyclists and runners entering the residential area, an area they were specifically requested not to enter. Residents report going to the Foch events just to make sure that members of the public do not go on the golf course or climb on equipment, things that have happened before. So if the conditions of a permit cannot be adhered to and our property is being overrun, then the residents have every right to be against public access to the campus. The golf course. So we have a 9-hole golf course. It's a big attraction for veterans thinking about coming to live at the Washington campus. Home offers associate membership at an extremely competitive price to members of the public who come from all over the DMV area, not just the immediate neighborhoods. Associate members are entitled to use the golf course and clubhouse from 1 May through 1 November. Yet again, there have been infractions. Recently, a couple was observed making out near the fish ponds. The man, when asked by the residents who witnessed the incident, claimed to be an associate member of the golf course. Well, it should go without saying that having associate membership does not give one permission to be in an area other than the golf course, playing golf. And our residents shouldn't feel they have to confront a perceived stranger. It puts them in a vulnerable position. Our walking program. So applicants for this program are required to undergo background checks. After all, they're on federal property. Walkers must wear picture ID badges, which they should show to the gate guard upon entering the property and keep to designated areas. They may walk dogs on the lead and must clean up after them. Currently, walkers are entitled to bring up to 2 guests, and I found that residents are concerned that these visitors have not been vetted. I want to mention just one more item before I finish. It's important because it illustrates how some people in the community are trying to be the face of volunteering at the Washington campus when they are absolutely not. The volunteer services at the Washington campus are a very important part of ongoing support to the residents. Volunteering is another way that community members can be on campus and form a relationship with the veteran community. Now, while the benefit of volunteering should be mutual for both volunteers and residents, AFRH policy states that there must be benefit for the residents. Requests to volunteer must go through the volunteer coordinator, who keeps records of volunteer hours. The recreation services staff here at the Washington campus organize many events throughout the year for the benefit of all the residents, and volunteers often come to assist. Volunteers should refrain from posting images from an event on their organization's website and then claim credit for organizing the event. This has happened. Our active duty brothers and sisters in arms do a lot of the heavy lifting when they come to the Washington campus. For example, members of the Coast Guard regularly clean the fish ponds. On the civilian side, there are outstanding volunteer groups, such as the Daughters of the Revolution, as well as many individuals who have supported the residents for 10 years and more. They do not ask for anything in return for volunteering, which is as it should be, and typically ask what the Washington campus needs in services or donated items. Volunteers are required to sign an agreement to follow the rules set out by the AFRH. Unfortunately, there have been rule infractions. A volunteer was observed taking photos or videos of residents without their express permission at a recent monthly event. While this incident was reported to the administration, I personally do not know the outcome, but doing something like this can be grounds for the removal of volunteer privileges. Enough said there. So I've addressed the events leading up to the current state of affairs regarding Zone A and about how the Washington campus currently interacts with the community. Let me conclude with this. A public meeting was held here at the AFRH Washington campus in September 2002 to air the draft special resource study about the National Historic Landmark that's located here. The answer to a question asked by a member of the public caught my eye. How will visitors to Lincoln Cottage be kept from wandering around the home? Mr. Jim Vaughn, the Vice President for the Stewardship for Historic Sites for the National Trust, gave this answer. Trust's #1 obligation to the home is to avoid an adverse impact on the home and its operations. At no time will people be allowed to roam the property. The home holds the key to limiting visitation numbers, and the residents will be our barometer for what's acceptable. Today, the residents are still the barometer for what's acceptable as far as public access to the campus is concerned. And that barometer reads that any additional public access to the AFRH Washington campus, the place the residents call their home, is not acceptable. For your attention.
Thank you, Chief Warrant Officer. And if you've never encountered a Chief Warrant Officer, they're very technical, tactical, and sometimes scary. So now we'll move on to Chief Master Sergeant Singer. Please, sir.
Good evening. I'm retired Chief Master Sergeant Don Singer, and I'm a resident here at the Armed Forces Retirement Home. I served over 30 years active duty in the Air Force, stationed around the world and in Iraq during the Iraq War. I will be speaking on the needs of the veterans here and the importance to us of the natural areas in the south and west of our home. Something that seems to be lost in these discussions is the fact that this is our home, not a public park. It has been paid for by the service, sacrifice, and blood of the veterans who have gone before us and the veterans who live here now. It is also being paid for right now by enlisted military members all over the world, many away from their families, risking their lives to protect all of our freedoms. Some of them will not come home. And for those who do come home and finally retire or separate from the military, some will find that home is no longer home for them. Many carry scars, both visible and invisible, just as the veterans who live here now do. Previous generations of veterans left us this home. We have a duty to safeguard it, both for the veterans who live here now and for the veterans out there who served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and around the world who will come here in the future. Some carry horrendous wounds, wounds that they would not have survived in previous wars. They will need this secure outdoor space where they can find peace, quiet, and solitude in nature when they come home. We must not fail to preserve it for them. The veterans who live here now came here knowing that even though our home is in the middle of the nation's capital, its secluded open spaces are a sanctuary where we can find peace, solitude, and healing surrounded by nature. For most, the amount of natural space and solitude that our home provides was crucial to their decision to come here. Knowing that they would have that private space, most who came here gave up their homes and most of their possessions to make the move here. For most veterans here, it will be the last move of their lives. They have nowhere else to go. We here at this home live in community housing and we dine in a community facility. Short of shutting ourselves in our rooms, there is nowhere in the upper campus area to find seclusion and solitude. Only in those areas of the AFRH zone that some erroneously refer to as Zone B and Zone C can we find solitude and peace alone in nature. This is our backyard. To open it for public access, turn it into some sort of public park, to allow the public to transverse through this area on their way to shopping and dining would destroy what is left of our sanctuary. To some, this home of ours is viewed as a potential park to gain access to regardless of what it takes, regardless of the needs of the veterans here. We do not believe that all of you think this way. We are hopeful that many of you may not have fully understood how important this area is to us veterans. It is our backyard, a place where we can be at peace in nature, where we can finally let down our guard and relax our vigilance. Those who would call themselves our friends should know this. Bosch reminded us in the October 6th meeting that they have volunteered during our saloon nights, where they bought us beer and pizza. They have supported events such as the 4th of July celebration, where they have given us food truck food. But in Foch's May 31st letter this year to the National Capital Planning Commission, they wrote about, quote, potential leverage, unquote, to use against us to gain access to our land. And in our last meeting on October 6th, Foch told us we are headed for, quote, confrontation with the community, unquote, and, quote, that will mean failure for the development project that the home desperately wants, the residents need financial support from, unquote. They are basically telling us that they have the right to access our home, and if they don't get their way, it will mean failure of the 80-acre development, knowing that will hurt us, the veterans, financially. Bosch, you call yourself our friends, friends of the soldiers' home. This is how friends who support us act. You come into our home, give us free beer and pizza with one hand, and with the other, try to take a piece of our home that we need. The very land that is vital to the well-being of the veterans here and to the veterans who will come in the future. Say your differences are with our leadership, but we are here to tell you that your differences are also with us, the veterans, who have paid the price for this home and live here. The veterans, you say, thank you for your service to. To all here, we say, if you care about veterans, if you really want to thank us for our service, if you truly are our friends, you will not demand access to our backyard. You will not try to take away our sanctuary. Now that you clearly know our position, we ask that you respect our needs and drop your demands to access our home. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chief Master Sergeant. And now to our rank chair, Master Sergeant Fred Lehman.
Good evening. I am Fred Lehman, retired from the Air Force, and am currently serving my second term as chairman of the Residence Advisory Committee, the RAC. I have been a resident of the home for 5 years. I would like to thank our leadership for this opportunity for our members to engage with the ward leadership and Foch and to explain from the residents' view the real concerns we have as it relates to the safety and the health of us all. You have already heard from our ombudsman and 2 of our RAC members. The concerns they express represents the concerns of our residents. We have gone through a very bad period of dealing with the pandemic. I am proud to say, due to the hard work of our staff and the residents, we did not lose one resident to COVID. It was not easy and required everyone to sacrifice so much. Residents were not able to have visitors, had to eat in their rooms, and were shut off from the outside world. But as we always do, our staff and residents pulled together to make sure everyone's needs was taken care of. As we move forward from the pandemic, our CEO, General Rippey, and his staff have a full plate of projects that need their immediate attention. The 80-acre development, the renovation of the Sheridan building, update of the golf course, and many other projects. All this must be done while ensuring the safety and welfare of the residents. As I listen to the past presenters, everyone agrees that the safety and security of our residents is our first priority. But we all know that our major cities are experiencing an increase in crime, including Washington, D.C. Let me go over some of the police statistics for this area. This is in 2021, and we do know that 2022 is even worse. Homicides, 28. Sexual assaults, 25. Assaults with a deadly weapon, 146. Robbery, 248. Burglary, 133. Motor vehicle theft, 442. Theft from vehicles, 1,291. Theft other, 1,234. I also have an article showing the top 10 areas in D.C. that are considered as danger zones. Net worth crime rate may be 14% lower than Washington average, while violent crimes are up 143% higher than the national average. Petty theft and pickpocketing are continuing on the rise, so keep your cash and belongings secure while public transportation to prevent getting mugged. Open air campus for access to development area could result in a home being part of these crime statistics. We would not have control of who is entering our campus, and the cost of monitoring everyone is something we could not afford. I am not sure what the word world-class security is, but it sounds very expensive. These are not excuses, they are real concerns and should be taken seriously by all. Thank you for listening to the residents' representatives.
Thank you, Chairman Lehman. And that concludes, and I'd like to take the opportunity as the Ombudsman to thank the presenters. A lot of hard work went into this. We're still in the unknown of where we're going to go, but I hope that you take to heart what the residents said and know that this is our home. We love it here. We love the community, and we want to have a partnership with the community, but this is our home. And I believe we're going to toss to General Rippey or the coop.
Over to General.
Yeah. So thanks, Sam. And thank you, Sam and Hillary. How articulate, and Don and Fred. God bless you all for letting your views be heard. I mean, you know, I get up every morning and my number one thought is safety and security of residents and staff. My number two thought is to ensure our financial well-being well into the future. In fact, that's why I'm here. I think these community engagements have been helpful on all sides. Hear everybody's different perspective, and you know, we look forward to more dialogue as we go forward, and we're very excited about the future. I mean, this 80-acre development is going to be amazing, and it's going to have a 20-acre park, and it's going to have athletic facilities, and it's going to have restaurants, it's going to have hotels and houses, and it's a win-win-win for everybody. So that's about all I have to say. Thanks everybody for your time tonight. Stacy, would you like to make any final comments or any comments?
Thanks, but I think you've done a great job of wrapping it up. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Stace. And thank you residents and for, I know you put a lot of preparation into this. Very, very articulate. And actually I learned a lot myself tonight. So over to you all. I think that's all the AFRH team has to say tonight, but thanks for our time. Thanks for the time.
So I think that concludes the AFRH portion. So we'll kick it back over to Mr. Cornell.
Great. Thank you so much to everyone at the AFRH for your comments. Powerful words, and I think we're very happy to hear. And of course, you know, at the top of everyone's agenda, I think, is making sure that this relationship is one that that is in good spirit and mutual trust. So let me, if we're moving into the next period here of stakeholder community response. On our agenda, first were the neighborhood commission representatives. So maybe Michael, if you'd like to kick it off.
Sure, thank you. Well, thank you to all the presenters. That certainly was very thorough and covered up, I think, a lot of the issues that have come up. So, you know, it is best to know what the residents want, and we will certainly take that into consideration as we go back to the community and try to explain, you know, what your position is and how we can move forward. I think the only question that it left in my mind is actually around the golf course, because there has been some talk about, you know, improving the golf course over time. And I wasn't sure if that meant eventually opening the golf course in a more public way. It would seem, given everything that was said tonight, that there is no consideration of making the golf course more of a public amenity that might, you know, draw money or however help pay for things at the Air Force, or I'm sorry, at the retirement home. Is that something that, Stacy, you can confirm that's not something that you're considering at this stage, or is it something that might be considered in the future?
I would say it's something that might be considered, because we're still in the market sounding,
Yeah.
In preparation for proposals and things like that. You know, requests for proposals. So nothing is off the table.
Yeah.
And certainly we're not saying it's fully closed.
No, and it's I think that's a helpful point, only in that if that is something that if it's a direction that the home wanted to go in the future, I would simply ask that we keep in mind this concept of connectivity and whether or not a more publicly focused golf course would be able to accommodate some of these connectivity issues. But again, that's a decision that you'll make, not one that we'll force upon you, if I'm being clear.
Thank you. You are. I would say that some of that would have a lot to do with how we go forward in that any kind of solicitation to operate and manage the golf course for us. So it might very feasible, and it might not be feasible at all, depending on what organization that is. And it also depends on what we put as requirements into the request for proposals.
But, you know, this is Steve Rippey. The AFRH team knows this. That's the direction I want to head in. I want a top flight, state-of-the-art golf course that can provide some good recreational therapy for our residents as its top priority, but also as a first-rate amenity for the community. So Stacy and all the developers know that. We're just trying to figure out the best way to get there.
Fantastic. And I appreciate that. And that'll end my comment period.
Great. Thank you so much, Michael. I think do we have any other neighborhood commission representatives on the line that might have joined since our introduction?
Please raise your hands if you have joined.
Okay. If not, then I think we didn't have any council member representatives. So maybe I can pass it then to Matt from Georgia Avenue Thrive.
Yeah, thank you. So I just wanted to tell a quick story that came to my mind. It was just a few months ago. I was, walking my dog by the Randolph gate, and I saw a veteran on the other side of the fence, and I stopped. He stopped. we had a nice conversation. It was just two neighbors chatting, having a positive conversation, and it made my day better. And I really enjoyed it, and I think he did too. His name was William Bowen, and candidly, I felt this process got a bit off track in our last meeting. I thought the first meeting was incredibly positive. I thought I was really, frankly, blown away by what I heard from Stacy in the home, and it thrived from talking to neighbors about the history of the relationship, with the home and how it's changed. I thought, oh wow, it feels like there's really an interest in connecting, and that's great. And it feels like kind of everybody's kind of backed into their corners and all a little bit more defensive. And frankly, I felt in the last meeting, and I followed up with Stacy and I told her this. I felt some of the comments from the community came on a bit strong, and I think I just want us all to stay really on this theme of positive community connections and talking to each other in a positive and a good way, so that we can enjoy this and really gain something from our relationships and our connections. There are big trends in our country of communities being less connected, people having less friends, and if we can find ways to connect together in a good way, it can actually be real good for our health, just like that conversation I had with William. So that's why I'm here, and I really appreciate Stacy and everybody at the home, and just want to work with all of you. So thank you for the time.
Thank you very much, Matt. The Committee of 100, Kirby, please.
I don't. I'm very interested in the relationships that are on the, these are on the west side of the park. I physically live in Stronghold on the North Capitol Street side. So these relationships, I am a member of the Friends of the Soldiers Home, go out to help out on July 4th and whatnot. But other than that help, the nature of the community on that side and the relationships are new to me. So I'm just listening here. I would just reiterate earlier, we're looking at very interested in the Zone A development, the historic resources there, and how the specific elements of the development work for the city, for the corner of Irving Street and North Capitol Street. And again, I'm learning how this will be work into the community that's south and west. So I have no comment. I feel very privileged to have heard these comments tonight, and thank you for allowing me to join and hear them.
Thank you very much, Kirby. And let me just give some comments from the Friends of the Soldiers Home. First, I also really want to thank the members and the residents for their comments today. Friends of the Soldiers Home, first I'll say, personally, I moved to this neighborhood a couple of years ago and feel very privileged to be able to be in the vicinity of the beautiful campus of the Soldiers Home. I've also had the privilege to be able to speak and make friends with residents through, the first week I got here was visiting the Lincoln's Cottage and having conversations with a gentleman that was walking around outside the cottage, and sat down with him for about an hour to talk about, what his history had been, what he had been through, and how his life was at the home. One of the reasons I joined the Friends of the Soldiers Home in the beginning was because I come from a military family on both sides of my family, have had the pleasure and honor of working with military folks throughout my career. And I think for all of us at the Soldiers Home, what Friends of the Soldiers Home, what we care about is the relationship with the home. We were founded in 2011 in order to promote a good relationship with the home. Now, what is true is that had come out of some conflicts at the beginning of the 2000s around development inside the home. Development which certainly impacts the neighborhood, as the development that's proposed is going to impact the neighborhood. And what I'm really pleased about is that this communication continues, and I want to echo everyone else saying that for us, making sure that we can keep a positive relationship is paramount. And so that's our aim. I think the only, in terms of the last meeting, I think the concerns that we have are about changes that will affect the community and how we can make those changes, whether it's about the new development in Zone A, whether it's about the future of the golf course, I think, which is also a key part of this. And I think that's what we tried to say in October, that how the golf course, the plans for the golf course, what that looks like. We want to envision a positive, a positive corner where through the golf course, through the new development, that there is an interaction which maintains the security and of the residents. That is our number one principle, and one that we wholeheartedly hear and stand by and respect, as well as the financial viability of the home itself. I think what we hope is that any kinds of solutions that we discuss can maintain both of those, while also permitting an interaction for the community to enjoy the green space in the context of this new development. And we're open, very open to conversations. And I think what's important is that these lines of communication through these consultations, but also through continued consultation and communication that's not necessarily deemed by the NCPC, but that we can continue voluntarily. We want to be to work together and be neighbors and be friends, and that's our chief aim here. So I really thank very much all of the AFRH leadership, and for the residents. We hear your powerful words, and I think that's the only commentary we have for now. I do appreciate the comments from Michael Ray from 1A about questions about what is the future of the golf course, and really appreciate also General Rippey's comments about that as well. And that remains something that we're very interested in. And as that planning develops, we hope that we, as the community, Friends of the Soldiers Home, can join you in those plans, so that we can reach the best outcome possible here. And certainly not, I certainly don't want to have any kind of confrontation. It's something I think which in the past caused frayed nerves, and that's something that we don't want to have repeated. So thank you so much, and let me just open the rest to Q&A from the public. I see that we had a couple of comments in the Q&A box here. So maybe we can just go through these first. Daniel and Renee Erickson Teal on Columbia Road asked, how long have the AFRH Osh grounds been a gated community? Was it founded as a gated community? They also say here, why is the tradition of sharing with the community now being portrayed as a security concern? I wonder if there's a comment from either the AFRH leadership or ombudsman or the RAC.
Philip, this is Chief Master Don Singer. This security is a big issue, of course, and, key, life and limb and all that, property. But it's not just about security, and I'm not sure if you really heard us, but it's about this sanctuary here, that we come here to be with our brothers and sisters in arms in our own community. And no, we don't hate the outside community. We love them and we go out there and interact with them. But we're here, when we come back through that gate, this is our sanctuary where we can relax our vigilance, like I said. And if we have, you know, a lot of the public coming through here, it just won't be that way anymore. And the nature won't be the same. You know, the access, the public park and all that, it's just, for us, it's, you know, a non-starter.
Okay, those are the only comments that were in the Q&A written box. Can I open the Q&A to any public panel, any attendees? Please raise your hand if you have any comments or questions to contribute. Okay, in that case, it looks like we're at time. So again, I want to thank everybody who took the time this evening to participate, to attend this community meeting. And I think I want to think maybe the next order of business is to perhaps schedule a further one of these. I'm not sure sort of what the understanding was there going to be a fourth meeting, but if we'd like to set a date for a further meeting, that could be possible.
Cornell, this is Stacy, and I believe we know this is to be a continuing engagement. So we're not thinking that 4 is like a number. We're thinking the next engagement and having an opportunity to continue the dialogue. I would like to say that if there are questions from the audience and they send them to you, you can send them to us. We will provide feedback for you. Do we want to try December, or should we, given that it's all the holidays and people doing their thing, do we want to try for an early January timeframe?
Or I was going to say, Stacy, maybe the thought would be that in January, the group of FOSH and the people involved here maybe come up with whether or not another meeting is necessary and or when the best time would be. Because it does seem like we've kind of run through what I think the presentations and questions would be over the course of the last 3. But as you're saying, I think keeping the dialogue open is a good idea. I just don't know that we need to schedule anything right now while there's no new information.
Very fair.
Philip,
hello, all.
Sorry.
Hey, this is the Ombudsman again, and I would be remiss if I did not. I know for everyone it's 8 o'clock at night, but we just had the 3 RAC members here briefing. But in our community center below, we probably have close to 40 or 50 or even more residents listening in. So I'd like to give a shout out to them for staying up late and just let everyone know that this is something that's really heavy on the heart of all the veterans here. We love support, but we love our home, and I'll cash out on that one.
Okay, so thank you so much, and thanks to everybody listening on the side of the home as well. In terms of scheduling the next meeting, it sounds like then we won't set for now a set date to meet next, but perhaps tentatively we could be looking at early January, as was proposed, when people are back from holidays. You know, maybe sometime in the second week, but again, let's leave that as a tentative with a pin in it. And I think once we can sort of talk amongst ourselves and see if there's new information that we need to discuss, we can set a firm date if that's something that would be acceptable to everybody.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and have a great evening.
You too. Armed Forces, home out.